Diego sat in deep tranquility, a stark contrast to the tired and hopeless taxi driver he once was. He now knew, with a certainty that settled in his very soul, that he had been living in an ocean of abundance. He looked at his grandfather, his eyes clear and determined. "Grandfather, I have accepted it," Diego said, his voice steady. "I have accepted that opportunities are infinite and the world is full of wealth. I have accepted that an intelligent and living substance is the origin of all things. Now, now give me that key. What is the first step to doing things in a certain way?" Mateo leaned forward, a smile of deep satisfaction on his face. His voice was calm but penetrating. "The first and only principle, thought. Thought is the only power that can produce tangible wealth from that formless substance." "Thought?" Diego asked, a flicker of his old skepticism showing. "Just thinking?" "Precisely," Mateo affirmed. "The substance from which all things are made is a thinking substance, and a thought of a form in this substance produces the form itself. Every form and process you see in nature is the visible expression of a thought in the original substance. When the formless substance thinks of a form, it takes that form. When it thinks of a motion, it makes that motion. This is how the entire universe was created. We live in a world of thought, which is part of a universe of thought. The thought of a slowly growing oak tree does not instantly create a full-grown tree, but it sets in motion the forces that will undoubtedly produce that tree along the established lines of growth. Your thought for a wealthy life works in the same way." Scenes of human endeavor flickered into view. A sculptor hammering a block of stone, a carpenter sawing wood. Then a familiar image appeared. Diego himself, his hands greasy, hunched over the engine of his taxi. A soft sigh escaped Diego's lips as he looked at his former self. "I have worked with my hands my entire life," he said quietly. "And this has been humanity's historic mistake," Mateo replied. "To this day, man has confined his efforts to the work of his hands, applying manual labor to the world of forms, seeking only to change or modify things that already exist. He never considered that by impressing his thoughts upon the formless substance, he could bring new forms into existence." "You mean we were just moving existing things around?" "Yes. You use the forms of nature, metal, plastic, to build an image of a repaired car that you had in your mind. You did not try to cooperate with the formless intelligence. You did not dream you could do what the Father, the source of creation, does. Instead of creating from the unformed, you settled for merely altering the shape of the formed. But I am here to prove to you that any man or woman can bring things into existence by connecting their thoughts to the primal substance." Mateo stood opposite Diego, and the atmosphere in the study became focused and sacred. A soft light enveloped them both. "To begin," Mateo said, his voice resonating with importance, "you must accept 3 fundamental propositions. This will be your pact with the universe." He raised a finger, and with a brilliant light, inscribed a sentence in the very air between them. "First, there is a formless, primordial substance or matter from which all things are made. This substance is thinking, and in its original state, it permeates and fills all the interstitial spaces of the universe." A second luminous sentence appeared just below the first. "Second, a thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought." And finally, a third most powerful sentence materialized. "Third, man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon the formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created." Diego stared at the glowing sentences with mesmerized eyes, as if he had been waiting his entire life to hear these very words. To do things in a certain way, Matteo continued, you must first acquire the ability to think in a certain way. Your way of acting is the direct result of the way you think. But I am always thinking, Diego said. My mind is never calm. No, Diego. You must be able to think what you want to think. And to think what you want to think is to think the truth, regardless of appearances. Truth? Appearances? It is easy to think according to appearances, Matteo explained. You look at your empty wallet and think of poverty. You look at illness and think of disease. But to think the truth regardless of appearances, that is the hardest work in the world. It requires more power than any other work. He stared intently into Diego's eyes. To look upon the appearance of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your own mind, unless you hold to the truth. And the truth is that there is no poverty. There is only abundance. To think of wealth while in the midst of appearances of poverty requires power. But he who acquires this power becomes a mastermind. He can conquer fate and have what he wants. Diego was silent, feeling the immense weight and importance of this lesson with his entire being. As the first step to becoming wealthy, Matteo said, you must believe these 3 statements with all your heart. You must cast aside all other concepts of the world. Contemplate these sentences until they are engraved in your mind and become your dominant thought. He leaned closer. Read them over and over. Memorize every word. If a doubt enters your heart, cast it away like a sin. Do not listen to arguments against this idea. Pay no attention to books or speeches that say otherwise. If your faith is shaken, all your efforts will be fruitless. Do not ask why these things are true. Just accept them with complete trust. The science of getting rich begins with the absolute acceptance of this faith. Diego closed his eyes. His face was calm, yet filled with a new steely will. In the silence of his mind, he began to repeat the 3 sacred statements. He was beginning the hardest work in the world,